Well, hello. Today's video is primarily for people with head and neck cancer who are either going to be going through some neck surgery or considering going through some neck surgery, and how it affected me, and some things that you can do to prepare for this particular surgery. First off, let me tell you what I had. I had the tonsil cancer, and it affected some lymph nodes over on my left side. So we decided, because I was a candidate for, we decided to send me through the TORS surgery, which is transorbital, I think it's transorbital robotic surgery, for the tonsil removal. And simultaneously, do the Modified Radical Neck Dissection, where they took out some of my lymph nodes. During the tonsil surgery, naturally they do what's called checking some margins. So they find out where the cancer is, and they cut around it and then under it a little bit additional, and then they take that and run that through a pathology. In my case, I was clear around it, but under it they found some cancerous cells, and then that information gets fed into what the chemo doctors and what the radiation doctors then do to fix it. On that note, let me give you some great news for me that I just got this past week. We did my first follow-up CT and PET scans, and in many people's cases there's a lot of false positives that come in these exams because of cancers. Their body hasn't reabsorbed all the dead cancer cells, or there may still be something in there, or there may be some questionable things in there that aren't necessarily, but might be, cancerous. In my case, both the two CTs and one PET scan all came back no evidence detected. Now, yes, thank you. I know you're happy about that for me. I'm happy about that for myself. But here's the key and why I wanted to mention that here. The course of treatment that was laid out for me by my medical team worked. In my case, it worked. I've got no cancer in me. Okay? So there's plenty of places on cancer survivor networks where I went and questioned the wisdom of my getting this TORS surgery and modified radical neck dissection surgery. Because let me tell you, that was a horrible recovery time. And if you're going through it, I'm sorry, there's no way I can sugarcoat this. The first week, 10, 12 days, not fun. Bad news. Horrible. You probably questioned whether it was worth doing it or not. It was a very, very, very bad time in my life. I can try to explain why. I wrote about it on Facebook a little bit back in the day. Bottom line is, to try to keep it as simple and quick, because I don't want to take too awful long on the video, is that, and I think I mentioned this in another video, they literally take a medical soldering iron and you know, cut out the cancer, cauterize it. They burn it out. And like any burn, that leaves a scar. Now, when you're talking about scarring in moist tissue, it takes a long time for that scar to heal. Not like burning your hand, where it just kind of covers up and throw some medicine on it and bandage it up and it's fine in a few days. This takes quite a while, because guess what? You're using your throat all the time. Whether you're breathing, swallowing, coughing, hacking, sneezing, it doesn't matter. You're using your throat. So you're constantly aggravating that wound in there. And it took me quite a while. And I had that nasal tube. I would imagine most people get that. I didn't ask for it. It was just, I woke up with it in my nose. I can't always speak for your surgeons and how they're going to do, your medical team, what they're going to do, of course. In my case, I woke up with a nasal tube. I was also falsely under the impression, and I don't know whether I just misread this or the people that I was reading just had a really lucky time, but I was under the impression that I would possibly be starting to do solid foods within 4 to 5 days after the surgery. That was not my experience. In fact, on December 6th of last year, we went back down to Little Rock, Arkansas for my follow-up after the surgery, and I was hoping to get the tube out. I'd been working on my swallowing muscles as best I could, hoping I could pass the test that determined whether or not I could have the tube removed. You see, because the reason before that is because they had to cut into some of my esophagus as well, so it was affecting my swallow. And the doctors, and of course I, were all concerned that I might aspirate or put food in the wrong place and go into my lungs, which would of course complicate things immensely, with pneumonias and other kind of lung diseases and things that no human being wants to think of when they're healthy, let alone just after having gone through this kind of a surgery. So this aspiration thing was a very, 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 very big issue. And I was very depressed on December 6th last year, 2020, when I went down to Little Rock and the gal took us in for the test, and I thought I did really well because I was swallowing some things, and I tried, because they have 4 or 5 things that go, as pudding and other things to swallow. And it turned out that it was not even close. and she told me at that time that I was probably looking at another 4 to 5 weeks, 6 weeks before I could even consider swallowing something solid. Now, remember, the date I told you about this, December 6th, I'd already missed Thanksgiving. My surgery was the day before Thanksgiving. I was hoping to have a Christmas ham. I was even hoping maybe to have something nice for New Year's. And we were going to start chemo and radiation the first week in January. So it was realistic to me that I was not going to eat or drink or swallow anything solid for now several months. It did kind of turn out that way, by the way. It wasn't until well into March or April when I really was able to start swallowing some things. It got progressively better. That's another conversation, another video. Don't get yourself too depressed or down on that. That's not the big issue. But it did take a while to start swallowing again. And so that's one of the things I want to cover with you. You know, first off, yeah, if you're going through it, there's a good reason to be worried and concerned. Okay, I get it. Yeah, I've been there. You know, I survived it. Good chance you will too if you have to go that way. Just understand it's going to be painful. So step one, the only thing I really wish my doctors would have done differently in this surgery situation, this whole part of the recovery and treatment, was prescribe either better and/or better and more pain meds. Again, I got out of the hospital the day before Thanksgiving. Now, I understand. I've been around for 60 years. I know how people act around that time. I know they're in a hurry. They got trips planned. They got family coming in. They got turkeys getting. They got stuff happening. I get that. I don't fault the medical staff at all for having a real life. I get this. Okay, so I'm not upset with anybody over this. It's natural human nature. They were great. They did a fine job. All of them did. But one place where the doctor, I think, could have been a little bit more proactive was to provide me more than 3 days of pain meds. I didn't realize, of course, I'd never been down this road before, that the 3 days was not enough pain meds. After 3 days, my wife started crushing up, I think it was Tylenol, a couple Tylenol, because everything had to go through the nose tube, so everything had to be crushed up. Crushed up, put in some water, sucked up through a syringe, and then squished through the nasal tube. That's how I had to take everything. So the first medication was a liquid Tylenol, a liquid something. It wasn't morphine, it was some other kind of a drug. And that, I counted minutes to every 4 hours because my wife nor I was going to take pain meds more than every 4 hours. Her, because she was being a good, smart, wise caretaker. Me, because I didn't want to run out, because I saw that the liquid just diminishing in that bottle, and I knew I was going to need it more than those 3 days. So we should have been a little more proactive. I think the doctor could have been a little more proactive and prescribed a whole week of that. So pay attention, or have your caretaker pay attention to how much pain meds you have, or for how long they're supposed to last. I could have really used that for a good 6 or 7 days. After that wore off, it was real tough for me. Okay. 2, if you have a friend or family member, or even yourself being proactive, that can and is willing to make some chicken broth, plain chicken broth. Well, lots of fat, lots of skin in that chicken broth. Put however you're with your friend or your family member, whoever cooks it, somebody wants to help you out but wonders how to help you out, chicken broth. There were some good friends of ours, Sarah and Jared, who made it proactively. We didn't ask, but they just said, hey, we're making some chicken broth. They brought it over when I came home from the hospital, and it sat in the refrigerator there for a long time, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 days. I think it was 8 or 9 days before I could finally start trying some. And I'd heat up just a little bit, because again, I was worried about the aspiration. Keep that in mind all the time here. Every single day I was still worried about aspirating something. And I hadn't been eating anything, so the throat really wasn't working that much. And it was hard to work when it did work. So I take that little syringe, pull out 2, maybe 3 milliliters of this. That was, after it warmed up, I put it in the microwave and warmed it up, and I squish it in my tongue. And I'm telling you what, after not eating for 10 days, that stuff tasted great. There was nothing in the world in my life that tasted better than that chicken broth on those days. It did take a while for me to start being able to swallow it properly. And of course, again, worried about the aspiration, which I don't think I ever did on that. But the oil, the warm, greasy oil from that chicken broth that coated my throat, you're gonna thank this friend for the rest of your life. Whoever makes you your chicken broth, it's gonna be a wonderful person in your life. trust me on that if you can eat chicken. I mean, I'm not a medical person. Again, none of my advice is medical. It's only experiential. So my strong recommendation is have some chicken broth in the fridge or freezer, wherever, ready to go. And then heat up what you can, syringe it, and well, I didn't put that through my nasal tube. That went right into my mouth, and oh man, did that taste good. All right, so keep an eye on the pain meds, the quantity of it, and keep an eye or ask somebody or pre-make some real chicken broth, not bought chicken. Make the chicken broth. Make it with all the good fats you can get inside there, full of protein. It's full of the good fats. It's warm. It feels good on your throat. You will really be grateful that you paid attention to that particular part. Okay, so those are my two pieces of information today on the TORS and the Modified Radical Neck Dissection. I hope that your surgeries go well and that you recover well. And if you still have to have your radiation and chemo after that, you pay attention to some of the other videos and some of the other hacks I have, because we want to make this process as easy for you as we can. Trust me, it's never going to be easy, but we'll try to make it as easy as we possibly can. Thanks for paying attention. Please list any comments down below, any conversations you have on this, any other ideas you have, anything that's happened in your life that made your recovery easier. We'd love to hear from you. Thanks, and never, ever give up.